Hey guys, I'm Pineapple Brain. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a portal gun. Let's create an item first, and it will be a ranged weapon. And I will upload an image with 3 column count and 1 row count. And I will call it portal gun. The portal gun have 3 variables. The first one is portal1, which is a unit. The second one is portal2, which is also a unit. And the third one is select, which is a number, and the default value is 1. And then let's move on to animations. We change the default animation into the third one, and we will just loop it infinite. And let's add 2 more animations. I would call the first animation first portal, and the frame will be this one, and the second will be second portal, and it will be this frame. And then change the fire rate of this item into a lower fire rate and save it. And then we go to unit type and create a new unit, which is a top-down unit. And I will upload the portal image here, and column with 2 and row is 2. And I will call it portal1. And here the animation, the default should look like this. And we are going to create another animation, and I will call it stable, which would look like the second one here. And also here, we are going to change the state, and we are going to create another state also called stable with animation stable and default body type. Afterwards, we are going to create a new variable called paired portal, which is a unit, and save it. And make sure the body type here, it is dynamic. With the fixture, it should be true, and we can save it. We need 2 portals, so we are going to force this portal, and it will be portal 2. And here I will change the default into another color, so this one. And the stable of this one will be also in the blue color, and save it. Now we are going to the projectile type and create a new projectile type, and I will choose constant speed, and here I will make a transparent image for it, and this will be a teleport cooldown, and we won't destroy it on contact, and change its lifespan into 75. And then go to global variable and create a new in general, and I will call it TP apply, and it would be a boolean with a default value true. Let's move on to the scripts. Create a new script. I will call it portal gun, and its trigger will be when unit uses item, and we are going to determine wherever it is using portal gun. So if else, then if the item type of triggering item is portal gun, because our gun have 2 states, so we are going to see if it select the first state or the second state. And here we are going to create another if else then, and it would be a number comparison, and the function would be a entity variable with select of triggering item equals to 1, and we would play its animation, so search animation, and we will play triggering item first portal animation, and we are going to check this scan has already placed the orange portal or not. So create another if else then, and this will be a unique comparison with the variable if portal 1 of triggering item is undefined. So if that orange portal unit doesn't exist at all, let's create it. And I would do this: create unit at position, create portal 1 for owner of triggering unit at. So you could choose any position, but I will choose the mouse cursor position of owner of triggering unit facing 0 radian. The portal of orange is already created. So now we are going to set entity variable, set the variable of portal 1 of triggering item as last create unit. So we record this unit belongs to this gun. However, if this portal already exists, we shouldn't create another portal for them. Instead, we are going to move the old portal. So move entity, move. So it is a variable because we record it in a item. So the portal 1 of triggering item to the mouse cursor position of owner of triggering unit. As we have two states, so duplicate this one and paste it in the else do of the above one. And just change the content. Here we will change it to 2. And we will play the second portal animation. And here we will find portal 2 variable, and we will create portal 2 for owner of triggering unit and set portal 2 of triggering item as last created unit. Here we move the portal 2 instead of portal 1, so change all 1s into 2. So now only the portal gun have the information of portals. However, the portal doesn't know the corresponding portal is created or not. So we need to make a script to check it and set the paired portal for the portal. So let's create another action. So we'll make a if else then, but here we will choose AND. And remember here is AND. And the first one would be unit comparison. So if the variable portal 1 of triggering unit is not undefined, so it is already exists. Also, portal 2, similarly, choose unit comparison variable portal 2 of triggering item is not undefined. We will do something. We will change the portal state. So state set entity state set variable because the item remember those units. So portal 1 of triggering item to stable. Also, duplicate this one and change another one into portal 2 into stable. And this part is for other scripts. If the portal is stable, we would make units and projectiles which enter the portal into another portal. Now we are going to set the paired portal of each portal to each other. So set variable of entity, set entity variable, set portal paired portal of variable entity variable portal 1 of triggering item as variable entity portal 2 of triggering item. So the portal knows each other, and then copy this and place it here and change the first portal 1 into 2 and change the portal 2 back to 1. So portal 2 here, portal 1 here. Finally, we are going to set the owner of these portals. So here, owner, set owner of variable, entity variable, portal 1 of triggering item to owner of triggering unit. And copy this one and place it here. Change portal 1 into portal 2. Why do we need to change the owner? Because we need to confirm that both portals are owned by same person. So we've finished the script of creating portals. However, the gun can't change its state. So we have orange state and blue state, but it can't change yet. So create a new script. I will call it portal gun switch. So we will switch the portal gun by a mouse click. So go back to environment, go to the unit that can use this portal gun, and go to control. Here key binding, I will choose mouse right click and it will do portal switch. So when we click mouse right click, if it is state 1, it will change to 2, and if it is 2, it will change back to 1. So create a new action of is if else then, and here if the item, so we need to check the item type first. If the item type of item currently held by last ability casting unit equal to portal gun, and then we are going to check its state, create a new action. It is also if else then, and this will be a number comparison. If the variable of entity select of the entity item currently held by the last ability casting unit equals to 1, the state 1, and we will change it to state 2. So set the entity variable select of item currently held by last ability casting unit as 2, and we will play its animation. So play entities animation, and we will play item currently held by last ability casting unit, second portal, animation. Similarly, we do the same script but change all 1 to 2 and 2 to 1. So copy this and place it in else do. So if the selected of item held by last ability casting unit is 2, we will change it back to 1. Also, play the first portal animation. Also, we need to make a script to change its state when they pick up an item. So, copy this action and create a new script, and I'll call it portal gun switch on pick. So, the trigger will be when you need pick up an item and select an item in inventory. So we will place it here and change the details. If the item type of the triggering item is portal gun, and if its state, so it is also triggering item here, and the bottom is also triggering item. But this one, we won't change its state at it just pick up, so we don't need to set variable. Delete this, as well as this one, and swap these two. So if it is 1, we would play the first portal. If it is 2, we will play the second portal, but we need to change this one as well. Play triggering item first portal animation, play triggering item second portal animation, and then we are going to make scripts for touching the portal. So touch portal, and this script is about touching portal, and so we will do this when unit start touching another unit. So in this script, we are going to make it such that a unit enter a portal and it teleport into another portal. So first, we need to determine whether the contact is a portal to unit or it is not. So make an if else then, and this will be a OR comparison type. So here we will determine the unit type. So unit type of last touch the unit is portal 1, or the unit type of the last touch the unit is portal 2. And we will determine whether the last touching unit is also a portal. So here then do, we would make if else then. If boolean string contains string, and if the name of unit type of last touching unit contain portal. If it is true, so we'll change the true into false. So here we are going to check another if else then. We need to check if the portal is collide with another portal which is paired. So here we are going to choose unit comparison and change this into entity variable, which is paired portal of last touched unit is not equal to last touching unit. So we exclude the case. And by default, we are going to set the TP apply. So we are going to check if it apply the teleport into another portal. So by default, it will be true. And we are going to check all projectile type. So for all projectile in a projectile group, so all projectile in the game, and we check if the projectile type is TP timer. So if the projectile type of selected projectile is equal to TP cooldown. Also, we are going to see whether this TP cooldown owned by the paired portal of last touched unit. So here we are going to check if else then if the unit comparison, the source unit of select projectile is the variable entity variable, the paired portal of last touched unit. So in this situation, the TP cooldown is exists, so we are going to change the TP apply to false. So long as there is one TP cooldown, we will change it to false, and we were going to break out the loop. So in case we are going to teleport the unit when TP applies true, so we were going to make another if else then if TP applies or boolean, if TP apply is true. So make sure this script align here. So align with these two actions. We will create projectile which is TP cooldown for last touch the unit, which is the portal at entity position, portal position, last touch unit facing 0 degree and have 0 force. And then we are going to move the last touching unit. So move entity, move last touching unit to the position, entity position, and as we know that the paired portal of last touched unit is the position, so paired portal of last touched unit. So generally we finish the touch portal of the unit. So we are going to make another, which is about touch portal but projectile. So duplicate this script and paste it, and I will change the name into projectile. So generally the trigger will change to unit. So we will find when unit start touching projectile, and all of the last touched unit and last touching unit is required to change. So let's change from the first line. So go into it and change last touched unit into last triggering unit. So this one into triggering unit and another one also triggering unit. And in this case, it is not important to check another unit is also portal because it is a projectile. So move this bottom script action, whole bottom script action here, and delete this one. In this case, we are going to check the projectile is not TP cooldown, or else it would also crash the game. So here change it to projectile type comparison. If projectile type of triggering projectile is not projectile type, this is constant, not TP cooldown. And here we will change the remain last touch the unit into the triggering unit. So here, if source unit object select projectile equals to pair the portal of triggering unit, and bottom create teleport cooldown for triggering unit at the position of triggering unit. Finally, we're going to move the projectile instead of last touch the unit, so projectile last triggering projectile to the position of paired portal of last triggering unit. So we finished making everything. So let's try. So I've tuned the item anchor item size as well as making 2 new items from test. So let's try our portal gun. So I will create 2 portal first, and I will enter 1 portal like this, and again. So it works for unit. So let's try the item. So I will shoot this item with explosive projectile. So it actually works. So another new item, I will shoot many bullets, and it also works. As you can see, bullets are teleport from one portal to another portal. Another thing to be noticed is that if the bullet is destroyed on touching unit, you can't shoot into other people's portal, but you can shoot to yours portal. But if the bullet is not destroyed when it touches unit, it could teleport for both your own portal and other people's portal. So that's all of today's video. If you like it, don't forget to share and subscribe my YouTube channel. It seems fun. Bye bye.